Early societies, the desire for male offspring was deeply rooted. Ancient texts like the Vedas and Manu's writings emphasized the importance of sons for spiritual and worldly fulfillment. The Hindu Adoptions and Maintenance Act of 1956 marked a significant shift, transforming adoption from a religious ritual into a secular legal process. Unlike earlier customs, the act does not require religious ceremonies for adoption. It allows for the adoption of daughters, broadening the scope beyond traditional male preference. This introduction sets the stage for understanding how the act modernized and regulated adoption, making it accessible and fair for all Hindus. Hindu Adoptions and Maintenance Act 1956 applies throughout India except Jammu and Kashmir. It covers all Hindus and aligns with other laws like the Hindu Marriage Act and Hindu Minority and Guardianship Act. The act defines key terms such as maintenance, which includes essentials like food, clothing, residence, education, and medical care. It also clarifies who is considered a minor, setting the age at 18. By establishing clear definitions and scope, the Act ensures consistency and clarity in legal proceedings related to adoption and maintenance. Section 4 of the Act states that adoption must follow the rules set out in this law. Any adoption made after the Act's commencement must comply with its provisions, or it will be considered void. However, adoptions made before the Act remain valid, even if they don't meet the new requirements. This ensures that families who adopted under previous customs are not penalized. The Act is not retroactive, meaning it respects past lawful adoptions while setting new standards for future cases. For an adoption to be valid under the Act, several conditions must be met. The person adopting must have both the capacity and the right to adopt. The person giving the child an adoption must also have the capacity to do so. The child must be eligible for adoption and all other legal conditions must be satisfied. Capacity and right are distinct. Someone may have the ability but not the legal right to adopt. Both must be present for a valid adoption. These requirements ensure that adoptions are conducted responsibly and legally. Sections 7 and 8 of the Act specify who can adopt a child. Both males and females can adopt, but they must have the capacity and the right to do so. For males, consent from the wife is necessary, especially if there is more than one wife. For females, the law has evolved. Unmarried women, widows, and divorcees can adopt without needing consent from others. Married women can now adopt with their husband's consent, except in cases where the husband is no longer Hindu, has renounced the world, or is declared of unsound mind. These provisions ensure equality and clarity in the adoption process. Major male Hindu of sound mind can adopt, whether he is single, widowed, divorced, or married. For married men, the consent of all wives is mandatory. Consent must be explicit or clearly demonstrated, not inferred from silence or presence. Exceptions exist if the wife is no longer Hindu, has renounced the world, or is legally declared of unsound mind. These rules protect the interests of all parties involved and prevent unauthorized adoption. Under the Act, Hindu women, whether unmarried, widowed, or divorced, can adopt a child. A widow does not need consent from a co-widow as she adopts in her own capacity. Even an unchaste woman has the capacity to adopt. Married women can now adopt with their husband's consent unless he is no longer Hindu, has renounced the world, or is declared of unsound mind. This change, brought by the 2010 amendment, empowers women and ensures their rights in the adoption process. Section 9 outlines who can give a child in adoption. Previously, the father had absolute power, but now both parents must consent except in specific circumstances. Guardians can give a child in adoption if both parents are dead, have renounced the world, are of unsound mind, have abandoned the child, or if the parentage is unknown. Guardians must obtain court permission and the welfare of the child is the primary concern. The court may refuse permission if any consideration is involved, except for ceremony costs and upkeep. Father cannot give a child in adoption without the mother's consent, except in cases where she has renounced the world, ceased to be Hindu, or is declared of unsound mind. Even if the marriage is dissolved, the mother's consent is necessary. The term father does not include adoptive, putative, or stepfathers. These rules ensure that both parents' rights and responsibilities are respected in the adoption process. Mother of an illegitimate child can give the child in adoption without needing the putative father's consent. After the 2010 amendment, both parents have equal rights to give a child in adoption, provided the other consents except in specific circumstances. The mother's right is not lost through conversion or divorce. The law excludes adoptive mothers and stepmothers from this definition, ensuring clarity in who can give a child in adoption. Guardians can give a child in adoption if both parents are dead, have renounced the world, are of unsound mind, have abandoned the child, or if the parentage is unknown. Court permission is required and the child's welfare is paramount. The court considers the child's wishes if they are capable of expressing them but may override them for the child's best interest. The court also ensures no improper consideration is involved in the adoption. Section 10 sets out who can be adopted. The Act removes many old restrictions allowing both males and females to be adopted. The child must be Hindu, not already adopted, and not married unless custom permits. The child must be under 15 unless custom allows otherwise. These changes make adoption more inclusive and practical, reflecting modern values and societal needs. For 1956, several ceremonies were required for adoption, including the ceremony of giving and taking and Data Haman. The current Act only requires the actual ceremony of giving and taking, performed by the person giving and the person taking the child in adoption. Data Haman, a religious ritual, is no longer necessary. This simplification makes adoption more accessible and less dependent on religious custom. Several additional conditions must be met for a valid adoption. If adopting a son, the adopter must not have a Hindu son, grandson, or great-grandson living. If adopting a daughter, the adopter must not have a Hindu daughter or granddaughter living. If a male adopts a female, he must be at least 21 years older than the adoptee. The same applies for a female adopting a male. A child cannot be adopted by multiple people simultaneously. The child must be actually given and taken in adoption, transferring them from their birth family to the adoptive family. Adoption completely uproots the child from their natural family and places them in the adoptive family. The child ceases to be part of their birth family for all legal, religious, and civil purposes. The adopted child is treated as a natural-born child in the adoptive family, with the same rights and obligations. However, they cannot marry anyone from their birth family whom they could not have married before adoption. Property vested in the child before adoption remains with them, but is subject to maintenance and other charges. Act defines relationships after adoption. If a Hindu with a wife adopts, she becomes the adoptive mother. If consent is given by multiple wives, the senior-most is the adoptive mother, others are stepmothers. If a widow or bachelor adopts, any future wife becomes the stepmother. If a widow or unmarried woman adopts, any future husband becomes the stepfather. These rules clarify family relationships and ensure proper legal recognition. Once an adoption is made, it cannot be cancelled by any party or by the adopted child. The adopted child cannot reclaim rights in their birth family but can modify or give up rights to property in the adoptive family. This rule ensures stability and permanence in adoption, protecting the interests of both the child and the adoptive family. No written document is required for a valid adoption, but the fact of adoption must be proven with strong evidence. If there is a registered adoption deed, it is presumed valid unless disproved by positive evidence. The burden of proof lies with the person challenging the adoption. The ceremony of giving and taking must be proven, and the presumption is rebuttable. Details in the adoption deed are proof but not conclusive. Maintenance is a core concept under the Act. It includes provision for food, clothing, residence, education, and medical care. For unmarried daughters, it also covers marriage expenses. The obligation to maintain is both statutory and personal, arising from the relationship between parent and child. Maintenance is absolute and does not depend on the means of the parent. This ensures that vulnerable family members are protected and cared for. There are three main provisions for maintenance of a wife. Under the Hindu Adoptions and Maintenance Act, Hindu Marriage Act, and Criminal Procedure Code. Under HAMA, a Hindu married woman is entitled to maintenance throughout her life regardless of property ownership. She can claim maintenance from profits of her husband's property but not from transferees or government. The right is personal and arises from the marital relationship. However, the right is not absolute and depends on her living with her husband and fulfilling her duties. Wife can claim separate maintenance if certain conditions are met. Desertion by husband, cruelty, husband suffering from leprosy, husband having another wife, keeping a concubine, conversion, or other justifying causes. However, she loses the right if she is unchaste or ceases to be Hindu. These grounds ensure protection for women in difficult marital situations while maintaining fairness and accountability. Section 24 of the Hindu Marriage Act allows for interim maintenance during proceedings, while Section 25 provides for permanent maintenance after a decree. Interim maintenance can be claimed by either spouse if they lack sufficient income. Permanent maintenance is determined based on income, property, conduct, and circumstances. The right to maintenance is statutory and cannot be contracted away. The court can modify or rescind orders if circumstances change. Section 125 of the Criminal Procedure Code allows a magistrate to order maintenance for a wife if her husband neglects or refuses to maintain her. The magistrate considers grounds for refusal and can make an order if justified. Wife includes divorced women who have not remarried. However, only legally wedded wives are entitled to maintenance. Second wives or women living as wives are excluded. This provision ensures legal protection for women unable to support themselves. Hindu law recognizes the obligation of the joint family to maintain widows of coparceners. The claim is enforceable against the Karta if the daughter-in-law has a right to maintenance from coparcenary property. The father-in-law's obligation is remote and arises only if the daughter-in-law cannot maintain herself from her own earnings or property, or from the estate of her husband, parents, or children. This ensures support for widowed daughters-in-law when other sources are unavailable. Both parents are obligated to maintain their children, legitimate or illegitimate, during their minority. Sons and daughters must also maintain their aged or infirm parents. The Act includes childless stepmothers in the definition of parent, but excludes stepfathers. This provision ensures care for vulnerable family members and reflects modern values of responsibility and support. Section 21 defines dependents as specific relatives of the deceased, including parents, widows, sons, daughters, grandsons, granddaughters, widowed daughters, and illegitimate children. The right to maintenance depends on their inability to obtain support from other sources. This ensures that those who relied on the deceased are protected and provided for. Section 22 limits the liability to maintain dependents to the estate of the deceased. Dependents who do not inherit a share can claim maintenance from those who do, in proportion to the value of their share. If a dependent's share is less than their maintenance entitlement, the liability is reduced. This ensures fair distribution of the estate and protection for dependents. Court decisions have clarified that Sections 21 and 22 are prospective and apply only to deaths after the Act's commencement. Heirs are legally bound to provide maintenance from the estate for those whom the deceased was obligated to support. These precedents reinforce the Act's provisions and ensure legal consistency. Section 23 gives the court discretion to determine the amount of maintenance. Factors considered include the position and status of parties, reasonable wants, property and income, and the number of people entitled. The court can refuse maintenance if justified. This flexible approach ensures fairness and adapts to individual circumstances. Maintenance rates can be increased if justified by changing circumstances. Even if the rate was fixed by a compromise decree, applications for increase can be made. Section 23 gives the court the power to adjust maintenance, ensuring that claimants are not disadvantaged by outdated agreements. Court has wide discretion to award maintenance, considering the circumstances of each case. For wives, children, and aged parents, factors like status, wants, property, and income are evaluated. For dependents, the net value of the estate, relationship, and past relations are considered. This ensures that maintenance awards are tailored to individual needs and situations. Section 24 states that only Hindus can claim maintenance under this act. If a person converts to another religion, they lose the right to maintenance. This provision maintains the Act's focus on Hindu family law and ensures clarity and eligibility. Section 25 allows the court to alter the amount of maintenance if circumstances change. This applies to decrees or agreements made before or after the Act's commencement. Maintenance can be stopped altogether if justified. The court's power to adjust ensures that maintenance remains fair and relevant. The right to maintenance under Section 25 supersedes any contract not to claim a higher rate, even if circumstances change. Courts have held that claimants cannot be bound by agreements that limit their right to increased maintenance. This protects vulnerable parties and ensures justice. Hindu Adoptions and Maintenance Act, 1956 modernized adoption and maintenance laws for Hindus. It established clear rules for who can adopt, who can give an adoption, and who can be adopted. Maintenance provisions protect wives, widowed daughters-in-law, children, aged parents, and dependents. The Act ensures fairness, equality, and protection for vulnerable family members, reflecting modern values and legal standards. The Act transformed adoption from a religious ritual to a secular legal process. Religious ceremonies are no longer required, making adoption accessible to all Hindus. The focus is on legal compliance and the welfare of the child, rather than religious customs. This change reflects the evolving nature of Indian society and law. The Act ensures equality by allowing both males and females to adopt and by granting equal rights to parents in giving a child an adoption. The 2010 amendment further empowered women, allowing married women to adopt with their husband's consent. These provisions promote gender equality and fairness in the adoption process. Welfare of the child is the paramount consideration in all adoption cases. Courts must ensure that the adoption is in the best interest of the child, taking into account their wishes if possible. Guardians must obtain court permission, and improper considerations are prohibited. This focus on child welfare ensures that adoptions are conducted responsibly and ethically. By requiring only the ceremony of giving and taking, the Act simplifies the adoption process. Religious rituals like data haman are no longer necessary, making adoption more accessible and less dependent on tradition. This change encourages more families to consider adoption and provides clarity in legal procedures. Adoption creates permanent family bonds, uprooting the child from their birth family and placing them in the adoptive family. The child gains equal rights and obligations in the new family, ensuring stability and belonging. The Act protects these bonds by making adoption irrevocable and clarifying relationships. Maintenance provisions under the Act protect vulnerable family members, including wives, widowed daughters-in-law, children, aged parents, and dependents. The obligation to maintain is absolute and personal, ensuring that those in need are cared for. The Act reflects modern values of responsibility and support within families. The court plays a crucial role in determining maintenance, considering individual circumstances and needs. It has the power to adjust, increase, or stop maintenance based on changing situations. This ensures that maintenance remains fair, relevant, and responsive to the needs of claimants. The Act grants statutory rights to maintenance which cannot be contracted away. Courts have held that agreements limiting maintenance are invalid if circumstances change. This ensures justice and protection for vulnerable parties, reinforcing the Act's commitment to fairness and equality. Hindu Adoptions and Maintenance Act, 1956 reflects modern values in family law. It promotes equality, protects vulnerable members, and ensures legal clarity. By transforming adoption and maintenance into secular, accessible processes, the Act supports the evolving needs of Indian society and families. Summary: the Hindu Adoptions and Maintenance Act, 1956 brought significant changes to adoption and maintenance laws for Hindus. It established clear rules, promoted equality, protected vulnerable family members, and ensured fairness in legal proceedings. Understanding these provisions helps families navigate adoption and maintenance with confidence, knowing their rights and responsibilities are safeguarded by law.